the new name now, which
It's
has
called
got
Hair Maps now.
yeah, ma'am. Okay, thank you. So for me, this is a very exciting company. Generally, I'm very passionate and excited about technology, the potential of technology companies. The reason why I like technology companies is because of innovation, because I think Pakistan needs innovation, and it's the innovative companies which create the most shareholder value, because it's these companies where it's difficult for the market to price the company in the short term, because it's difficult for us to assess the potential for innovation. But time and again, history has told us with companies like, globally in every geography, that it's technology companies, the innovative companies, which create the most amount of shareholder value. So that's why I'm really excited about TPL. And with this introduction, I will pass it on to Sarva Saab and his colleague, who will run us through a presentation and tell us more about TPL. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ali. Appreciate the opportunity for inviting us today for the presentation. Um, and so what I do is I normally it takes around an hour or so to run through it, but I'll try to run through the presentation in around 20-25 minutes. And then subsequently we can then, if there are any questions from the audience, we can take that up. Um, so what I'll do is I'll just start now. I'll start a bit just with respect to our group. So first of all, I'm Sarul Khan. I'm the CEO. With me is Mr. Malik Shariar, who's the CFO. I've been with TPL for over 5 years now. Prior to that, I've been working my career within the technology sector. I was working with Samsung, and then prior to that with Accenture in the US. So TPL Tracker is part of our parent entities for TPL Corp. It's essentially an investment holding company, which is also our majority shareholder. Uh, Within our group, we are a listed company as well as a parent company, and TPL Properties and TPL Insurance, which are two other group companies. This is in terms of the overall structure of the group. This is the slide that sort of summarizes the overall structure and our holdings within our group. Next slide. Thank you. So in terms of our group, we obviously TPL Tracker is companies IoT slash mapping telematics arm. Then we have TPL Properties, which is real estate development company. We have eVentures, which is basically a startup vehicle through which we invest in startups in pre-seed or seed funding rounds where we feel there is a synergy in with any one of our companies. Then we have TPL Security Services, which is physical security guards. Then TPL Life, which is life and health insurance company. And then we have TPL Insurance, which is our general and auto insurance company. Next slide.
Sarva I'll just highlight the quality of voice is slightly poor because I think it's probably because of the speaker. If you can bring the speaker closer to you, then it might be better.
Is it
It's much
better?
better now. Absolutely,
Right.
much better.
All right. Okay. Thank you. So I'll proceed. TPL Tracker, we've been around for over 20 years now. Within our existence, we started it back in 1999. Currently, we have a market share of around 42%. This is based on a study done by McKinsey a little while ago, because obviously because of an absence of any standard industry reports coming out from the regulator. In terms of a size, we're currently monitoring over 130,000 active assets on a daily basis. And then obviously we are licensed by the Survey of Pakistan for mapping, and then the PTA, this Pakistan Telecommunication Authority, for our tracking business. In terms of our business is set up, we have three main areas where you can see your three SBUs. The first is connected car. This is essentially all of our solutions related to our auto business, related to the automotive sector. Then we have digital mapping and location services. This is our mapping. This houses our mapping business, which is under the brand of TPL Maps, as well as our container security solution. And then we have industrial IoT, which is essentially also monitoring, tracking solutions for immovable assets, so such as fuel tanks, water tanks, warehouses, and so forth. In terms of if you look at across the three SBUs, we believe we have a unique market positioning because there is no other company in Pakistan which offers all of these solutions under one umbrella like us. In terms of size, we're over 700 employees. Our revenue last fiscal year, we closed at 1.6 billion. Our current fiscal year, we're about to close in a couple of days, so hoping for some better results there. Obviously, I can't comment a lot on it because our results will be finalized, approved by the board, and then will be released. In terms of our long-term rating by PACRA, we rated at A minus, and then we had our IPO last year in the middle of the pandemic, which was a very interesting experience, where we raised around 800 million against an offer of 700 million. Next slide. In addition to this, we also have a subsidiary in the Middle East called Tracker Middle East. This is a company that's been around since 2006, which was being managed and run by a local group called Al Jaber, based in Abu Dhabi. In terms of size, they're roughly around 7 million dirhams. At the start of this current fiscal year, we increased our ownership stake and took management control of this business. And that has a lot to do with our future strategy and what we're looking to do in terms of our growth looking forward. And I'll talk about that. But essentially, we are, as I've mentioned a lot in my previous presentations as well, at different forums, we are in a journey of actually moving from a hardware-based player towards being a software-based player. And what that means is moving away from being hardware-centric to being software-centric. So development, a lot of focus is on development of algorithms, software-based algorithms, which are hardware agnostic and can connect into any data device and can take in data points to that. And I'll talk about what our specific focus areas are in the following slides. But essentially, what the reason why we took over this company was because being a software-based solution is something which is a SaaS-based product. So from a distribution and reach perspective, through utilizing the cloud, we're able to go beyond just the geographic boundaries of Pakistan. So with this company, it provides us a good base from which to expand our regionally and outside Pakistan. It provides us an opportunity from an infrastructure hosting perspective. It provides us an opportunity from having a sales presence on the ground as well as existing relationships to take advantage of. And then obviously it provides us with a cost arbitrage opportunity as well, whereby we have our costs which are in PKR, our development costs which are in PKR, but we can actually compute on the revenue side in dirhams of foreign currency. Next slide. In addition to this, we also have a partnership with a company called Here Maps. This, Ali, is what you were referring to previously, was Navtech. Before that, Nokia Maps. So they have been ranked #1 by independent research organizations, ahead of Google for around 4-5 years in a row in terms of their location platform. So what this provides us is, because a lot of our solutions and our focus areas is on tracking and monitoring. So obviously location is an important aspect of that. So a lot of our solutions, we will be hosting them on our own mapping platform in Pakistan, but will be built on Here Maps platform for outside of Pakistan to be able to allow us the opportunity to take these solutions outside. So if you're talking about in terms of building blocks, these are two major building blocks: the acquisition of TME and this partnership with Here, through which we're able to take these solutions outside of Pakistan. Next slide, please. Yeah. So I'll talk a bit about each of our three SBUs and what our focus areas are. The first is the connected car. So historically, what we've been doing in this business is we've been selling hardware where customers either pay us upfront for the equipment cost, and then subsequently every year they pay us a monitoring fee, which is sort of like an annuity income. And then the second is where customers enter into a services fixed term contracts with us for either 3 years or 5 years, and then um, uh, and again closely linked with providing and selling our hardware through which we are providing those services. However, what our focus moving forward is trying to be hardware agnostic. So there are a lot of different types of hardwares that are in the market, which essentially we call IoT devices. These can be tracking units. These can be any range of different sensors that can plug in to manufacturing in vehicles, outside of vehicles as well. So we've developed our own algorithms which can take in data from either our own hardware or any third-party hardware. So this allows us an opportunity to go and license our monitoring platform in a SaaS-based business model. The advantages of this is obviously number one, we're able to increase our geographic reach. Number two, um, in terms of margins and profitability, this is a high it's a high margin business where our marginal cost essentially is lowered the more you license the platform. Um, so those and what this allows us, as I mentioned, is to exponentially increase our reach. Our focus areas are in four main areas here. First is video telematics, which is a big demand area in Pakistan also currently, where we essentially take in video feeds from our equipment or any third-party equipment and are able to raise specific alerts for fleet operators related to driver fatigue, related to driver behavior, on which they can take action. Similarly, the second is predictive maintenance, which is essentially a solution through which we're able to identify and raise alerts to fleet operators related to vehicle health, and if certain components are monitoring outside of acceptable ranges as a proxy that they will possibly be breaking down. And as you know, the idea is obviously a vehicle off the road for a business which has a large fleet is represents a lot of cost and money, lost money to them. So that's the second area that we're focusing on. The third area is usage-based insurance. This is something which is already in the market through our sister concern, TPL Insurance. What this essentially does is it identifies, takes in data from either a smartphone or any type of tracking device, and essentially converts that into a safety score, which you're able to link with the likelihood that a person is going to file an insurance claim or not. The idea is to identify good versus bad drivers to actually pass on the benefit to good drivers and pass on the risk to bad drivers, and move towards more database predictive underwriting, something which outside of Pakistan is a norm, but in Pakistan we're still at a stage where we're actually, insuring vehicles rather than drivers, which when the latter being the actual case which drives the risk. Um, there are two main target markets for this. The first is insurance companies, and the second is actually from a fleet operator perspective on the corporate side as well. There's a big demand in the market for this because it essentially enables you to, from a driver safety perspective, being able to implement stringent controls and monitoring controls on your fleet, being able to identify good versus bad drivers, what violations they're doing, over what period of time, and where they're doing them. So those are the usage-based insurance driver behavior. Those are four main focus areas within this connected car segment. Next slide, please. I'll move on to the next area, which is our maps and digital mapping area. This, for me and for a lot of us within the company, is one of the more exciting areas for us. So this is something which what we essentially do is we license the data that we have. Now, first question is, what is the type of data that we collect? There's very specific type of data that we're interested in, that we collect and that we license. The first is business addresses. The second is residential addresses, and the third is road networks. What this enables us to do is we've digitized all of this data, and now we're in the process of licensing it. The second question is, how did we go about capturing this data, and how did we get into this business, right? So I think back in around 2003, 2004, we started collecting our own points of interest in order to provide locations to our customers for our tracking business. because back in that time there was essentially no Google Maps. It was not as widespread. Digital data collection was not there, so it was providing locations to our customers was one of the hurdles which we were facing. In order to circumvent that, we got a license from the Survey of Pakistan. We developed our own team that went and physically collected these addresses and we digitized them in order to provide locations to our tracking customers. Over a period of time, we developed a very large data set. So I remember back in around 2016, we started to get a lot of interest from Google for interest in actually purchasing outright our data. That got us thinking in terms of what to do with this large data set and how to go about monetizing it. So there were two options. One is obviously, you go and just sell the data one time, but then you're selling away your competitive advantage. The other was we to look to develop a business out of it through which we can set up recurring revenue streams and start to license this data and also subsequently create our own products on top of this data. So that basically began our journey, which took us around 4 years and culminated at the start of this fiscal year where we, for the first time, started commercially licensing our data. We've gotten to a point where we are now at an annual run rate of around 150 million rupees annually just from licensing this data. This was something which we thought we would get to in our second fiscal year, but in terms of the response we've seen, it's pretty good. So how it works is this is a very margin-rich business. So we have gross margins in excess of 70% in this business, which will only increase. Because essentially what we do is our cost is associated with gathering and collection of a data point, which is an address, and digitizing that, which is a one-time cost and fixed cost. We are then able to license this data point to multiple customers over and over again, which essentially enables us to recover our fixed costs and then get to a point where we have very minimal marginal cost associated with network bandwidth cost of actually just fulfilling the API call. How we make money on this is that clients such as Foodpanda, Telenor, by Kia and others, they essentially have their own apps linked with our data APIs. So essentially, if someone is delivering making an order on Foodpanda or a Foodpanda is making a delivery, they call our data APIs, and on each API call, there is a revenue that's associated which comes to the company. So essentially, as our clients grow, as their apps grow, as they invest in more marketing to grow their business, their usage will grow, and at the same time, our revenue will grow because more and more of our data is used by them. The second area that we do is we started development of our own solutions as well, which are SaaS-based solutions which we're going and selling. The first is a geo-marketing solution which we call GoConnect, and then the other is called Dart, which is essentially our route optimization, route planning solution, which we've already started monetizing as well on. The fourth area within this is navigation. We've been in this business for over 4-5 years, actually longer than that, I would say 5-6 years, where we provide offline in-car navigation. So all of the Toyota vehicles where you have the navigation inside is from us. Similarly, Suzuki is all with us. Honda, the 1.5 variant with us. Hyundai is with us. So these are all big names who are working exclusively with us on the navigation side, and obviously with the new OEMs coming in, we're also in discussions with them to onboard them once their vehicles start coming into the market. The other area within this SBU is we also track. We're in the container tracking business, so we also track bonded cargo. The revenue model is pretty simple here. We charge on a per container basis. So essentially, the more containers that are on the road, the more revenue that we make. We are a licensee from the Pakistan Customs and the FBR. Two main points to highlight here. Firstly, this is a business which has high barriers to entry because essentially it requires significant amount of capital investment and also requires security clearance from the law enforcement agencies because you're tracking sensitive cargo. The second point I'd like to make is the growth potential here. So right now we're tracking roughly around 10,000 containers on average a month, give and take. The total number of possible containers that move in Pakistan, which is bonded cargo, is close to 30,000, upwards of 30,000 containers. So, and obviously there is a shift in focus towards increasing and bringing those other cargoes which are not being monitored, such as transshipment, such as CPEC, into this scope of monitoring and tracking as well. So that gives you an idea in terms of the growth potential. This business in itself is roughly around 500 million in terms of our top line. Um, we are currently the only company which has tracking operations, container tracking operations within the port of Gwadar, and we're actually operating and tracking containers from Gwadar as well, roughly around 300 to 400 containers a month currently from that area. The third area that we're in is industrial IoT. So over here again we provide monitoring solutions, but for, as I mentioned, immovable assets. So we have genset monitoring. We have clients such as Zong, HBL that are using our gensets for monitoring of fuel consumption and pilferage. Water monitoring. This is monitoring in water, underground water tanks, smart agri, warehousing, and then we're also in the fuel automation or fuel versus basically essentially monitoring large underground fuel tanks. The business model here is a bit of more traditional, where essentially we have a solution cost and then annual SLAs which clients enter into. And the primary purpose of this was essentially to move some of our dependency away from the auto sector, and because of our core businesses is historically providing tracking monitoring solutions for all types of automobiles and vehicles. So a lot of interest is obviously also on what we are doing this year in terms of our performance. I believe our results last year were obviously posted and everybody's aware of that with respect to our IPO where we were in a loss. So the questions were, what is the expectation moving forward, when we expect to be back in profit, and how we've done this year. So I'll talk a bit about that. In terms of tracking and IoT side, this is for 9 months ending March of this year, March 2021. So on the tracking side, in terms of our business performance there, we're ahead of target in terms of the sales book that we have, around 111%. We've closed some significant contracts with Daraz, with Standard Chartered, with PSO. On the auto hardware side, we provided over 3,000 units to Hyundai Nishat for the Tucson vehicle. This is the basically our auto hardware business where we provide the multimedia and hardware that is installed in the vehicles. On the mapping side, we were touching close to 80 million from our LBS sales. I told you our annual run rate had increased to around 150 million. In terms of our API calls in 9 months, we've served over 350 million commercial API calls on our platform. And we are now exceeding 5 million data points that we have. In terms of our financial performance, what we've tried to show here is a journey and basically reaping the rewards of some of the decisions and difficult decisions and cost management efforts and efforts to increase our revenue that we've undertaken. As you can see in the 3 quarters so far ending March, where you see a trajectory in terms of top line growth as well as bottom line growth, where essentially in the 3rd quarter, in the quarter we were alone, quarterly alone, we were back in a profit after tax of 17 million. And this is something we anticipate to continue obviously moving forward as well. So this is something where, in terms of our performance, we wanted to point and outline as well, because a lot of the questions were coming from potential investors are also on that end. This slide is lastly just gives an outlook in terms of our journey and what we are saying, trying to move away from being product and hardware specific towards being more of a SaaS-based, software-based and player focusing on analytics and value-added services and solutions. The graph on the left-hand side provides you a breakdown in terms of our revenue breakdown in the 3 areas and how we foresee it to change over the next 4 to 5 years. So with that, I'll just take a pause here because those were the main items that you wanted to go through. And then perhaps also, I think maybe Ali and pass it on back to you now in terms of any questions or coming up in what we've discussed.
Thank you. That's a great time management. It's exactly 12, almost 12:30. So as you had said that you'll speak for 30 minutes and it was very interesting and exciting. मैं थोड़ा सा उर्दू में बोलूँगा क्योंकि जैसे हमें रिक्वेस्ट आई हुई है फेसबुक से और यूट्यूब से कि लोग जो उर्दू में भी समझना चाहते हैं कि कंपनी क्या करती है. तो the thing which really excites me कि जो आपकी स्टोरी की कि you started with hardware and that you got market leadership in that, whether it was tracking or whether it was in IoT. And that allowed you to get a lot of data. And now in some of those areas, you're monetizing the data by developing subscription models, i.e. mapping, for example, or similarly in IoT, you are now using the data which you've collected with because of your dominance on the hardware side to go into higher margin businesses. So that shows the power of your business. And I think it's primarily due to two reasons. One, that you have the market dominance. So as you said, on the mapping side, you have 2.5 times more data than Google has. And similarly on the tracking side, you have 45% market share. And the other thing which I think is really exciting, and it's also evident in these revenue targets which you have given, is that the growth in the business. And I think that's the whole essence of a technology company, that you are a growth company and you have a lot of structural drivers which are supporting you. कि एक आपने बोला जैसा CPEC की वजह से जितना कार्गो की ट्रैफिक में potential है of growing more, and similarly in other areas, the mapping areas. And I quote what you said, कि जब आपके clients grow करते हैं, you grow because your clients grow. And all the, you had some very big brand names and very good growth companies as your client list. You had Ikea, Airlift, Daraz, all the great companies which have raised a lot of money and which are investing in growth. So जब वो grow करेंगे, आपको उसकी वजह से growth मिलेगी, and your growth will be higher margin. Unlike their growth, because they are investing money to drive that revenue growth, and for you that will almost be pure margins because
right. Yeah, that's the beauty of it, right? So that's why, because जो मैं बात कहता हूँ कि obviously हमारी जो cost होती है, obviously that is on the data side. That's the core asset which we are monetizing. And then the second is obviously onboarding of customers. So it's a usage-based model, right? So for example, you can get the scale and usage in two main areas. One is if maybe you get 2 or 3 unicorn clients, and that could be it. Or you have a very large scale of clients where you're getting small usage. So that is the beauty of it. Once you have them on board, as they grow, essentially now, once I have a client on board, my cost is generally then to do with keeping my data fresh and increasing my data consumption. Because on the growth part, then that company, as they will be investing in growing, we will be growing because more of their app will be used, more of their more APIs will be, more of my APIs will be called. And that enables me to really increase my margin, because after a certain point, I will have recouped my fixed costs associated with capturing and digitization of that data point.
बिल्कुल. And another thing which was clear in your presentation, जो different areas के अंदर application हो रही है आपके data के लिए. So it was not, when you showed that various applications like, water monitoring and energy monitoring, yes, that shows how rich the data set is. So for you, it's just building that asset base of data, and then different people come and have different applications of the same data.
Yeah. So, so we have one of the things that obviously that we are also understanding moving towards is a big change in terms of the selling cycle of selling a hardware device, a one-time hardware versus a platform, mapping the decisions and everything is different. So we have a very healthy long pipeline, and what I've seen is is interest across different many verticals, whether it be government, whether it be telco, whether it be the mobility space, whether it be FMCG. Now, and especially because of this pandemic that we've been in, what it has led to a shift in mindset, right? कि लोग अब चाहते हैं कि घर पे चीजें डिलीवर हो उनके पास, घर से निकलना नहीं चाहता कोई. बोलते हैं कि मुझे खाना भी घर पे चाहिए, ग्रोसरी भी घर पे चाहिए, shopping bhi ghar pe chahiye, all of these things. So that whenever that happens, that creates a need for last mile delivery, right? Need for an address, and that's where we come in if we want to digitize and automate that and provide transparency to customers in terms of tracking, in terms of optimization from service and cost perspective as well. So, ये जो change in mindset है, that has sort of, I would say, coincided very well with how when we started to license this data as well, which was in July of this last year. So, and I really think the growth potential moving forward is really immense, because I think the maturity and uptake of technology in a lot of areas in Pakistan is still very low in terms of penetration. And I believe there's a lot of potential for growth moving forward, and acceptance and uptake of that as well. I'll give you an example. So even on the delivery side, Pakistan ke andar ek bada hota hai ki, you have delivery riders which are very old, and रास्ते पता है उन्हें कि आप how do you monitor and track? We have this particular individual, he knows the best routes and सबसे छोटा रास्ता कौन सा है. Those types of conversations that we see, obviously it's only a matter of time before we realize that obviously no, you need a technology product, you need to utilize data to figure out what is the most optimal delivery route at what time, or how many orders to give to which delivery riders. So once that happens, I believe once the penetration increases, even that would, I think, even presents even a better opportunity for growth. And right now, in terms of data, there isn't any. It's either Google or it's us who's actually the only options available from which you can license this data.
No, absolutely. Thank you for highlighting that. आप बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं कि ग्लोबली तो मैपिंग की पावर को सारे जो टेक इन्वेस्टर्स है वो उसको वैलिडेट करती है, और उसमें काफ़ी इट्स अ हॉट एरिया. Google acquired Waze in Israel for $1 billion, and I think that acquisition really opened up this new wave of startup ecosystem in Israel. Similarly, in the US, जो Tesla और की जो फाइट हो रही है वो सारी की सारी सेल्फ ड्राइविंग कार्स पे जो हो रही है, it all actually boils down to the quality of maps which they have. So
that is another area which I didn't even touch upon, because it is sometimes when you're presenting and talking about these things, for us in Pakistan, it sometimes seems कि यार ये तो कहाँ की बात कर रहे हैं, समझ में नहीं आ रहा. But when you talk about like driverless cars and what Tesla and all of these are doing, what is it based on? Actually, is obviously sensors which are installed in the vehicles, but HD high quality maps, right? That you need. Now, if and whenever that happens, one of the things is what is the growth opportunity? Or if you're talking about OEMs when they're coming and they want to bring this technology, they would need high quality HD digital maps of Pakistan to a certain extent. So there aren't a lot of options available out there from where they can get it. There is us, and I think in terms of the breadth and scope of our data, I don't think there's anybody else currently who has that at that level. And this is also a result of, since 2003 in terms of data collection, and really 5 years of developing our infrastructure and spending on that we've gotten to this point now.
जी, आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा कि वो हो सकता है कि पाकिस्तान के लिए एप्लीकेशन अभी नियर टर्म में ना हो ये वाली, मगर इसका ये मतलब है कि जो ग्लोबल वीसी फंड्स हैं जो कि पाकिस्तान को अब देख रहे हैं, उनके लिए मैप का एरिया उसके लिए उनके लिए बड़ा हॉट एरिया होगा. सो कम अज कम one application which is relevant for you is that global funds who are now looking to invest in Pakistan, when they look at you, they at least wouldn't need to know, they would understand the importance and significance of mapping.
Exactly.
So I think I have one question, and then we'll open up the floor to questions. So if you people, we have 33 people on the call, please pose your questions on chat and I'll read it to our guests. जो आपने revenue forecast दिया था, it looks quite aggressive, and it's strong. It's showing that you expect strong revenue growth. But we've also discussed that in your business, given the fact that you're moving from hardware to software and subscription, and you're moving towards greater mix of mapping, which has, as you said, greater than 70% margins, there should be very high operating leverage, which means that the earnings growth should be actually higher than the revenue growth which you have put. Is that a fair assessment?
So your question is that the bottom line growth should be higher in terms of percentage than the top line growth than what we have presented in the projection.
You haven't presented, but you only gave revenue growth. So I was saying that your earnings growth.
So there are two things. Definitely, obviously, you're right that in terms of the profit, that's I mentioned when I started talking about the maps business, is that this is where we believe we will get the most growth in terms of top line and also growth in terms of our profitability. Number two. So I would say that is a fair assessment. We do have, I think, during our IPO, we had actually also floated more detailed projections and plans as well at that time with respect to what we are trying to do. Similar is the same thing that I talked to you about, and there is also projections there on the bottom line that were there. But I would say there is a fair assumption to make.
Thank you. So before people ask a question, I'll squeeze in one more question. What's the risk? What are the issues, the challenges which worry you?
So I think in the immediate term, I would say in the next 8 to 12 months, I would say nothing is obviously is this uncertainty right now with respect to the pandemic is one thing, right? Where you have currently some people talking about a fourth wave, third wave, or what those impacts are, travel restrictions, that creates a lot of hurdles with respect to travel internationally as well. As I mentioned, we have a subsidiary in the Middle East right now, it's all travel flights are banned. So that, that is from Pakistan mostly to everywhere. So that is, I would say, in the immediate term, that is a risk. The other thing I think is obviously is what is represented the technology thing. We are in a technology business. I think the keeping up to date with the latest things, product innovation, I think is another key area. I think that obviously all tech companies need to focus on, and that means that there has to be a focus on research and development significantly moving forward. That is the other area I think is from a risk perspective. Do you like to add anything, Malik, to that?
No, I mean in terms of the business itself, right? So like Sarvaj mentioned, most of it is driven through your customer behavior, your consumer behavior, which is changing. So that's something which is possible. In terms of risk, I guess in terms of technology upgrade and so on, so the leveraging is still going to be there. There's going to be high need for capital and investment. I guess that's something which is there. But like you mentioned, based on the model, right, you have a lot of your global VCs interested in the model itself. So that's something which I feel might be a risk coming forward, but that's again something which is easy to mitigate.
The last thing is also, Ali, I think is, as I mentioned to you, is like a lot of things you're talking about, like usage-based insurance, if you take that as a specific example, the maturity and understanding of that in the market, right? In Pakistan, as I mentioned, we're still insuring vehicles based on the type of vehicle that you bought, rather than the driver, which is being done everywhere else, because that essentially drives the risk, right? So it's the uptake of how long, because I believe, or it is our belief, that change will happen, but it is only a matter of timing. So if that timing is sort of stretched out back and forth, that could be another risk, because obviously that requires you to continually educate and spend and educate on what you're trying to do and what this model is and how it can benefit customers. But we've tried to, hedge that a bit in terms of our acquisition in the TME and trying to take some of these solutions outside of Pakistan as well, where we have this more of a better understanding and uptake of it.
So I'll squeeze in two more questions, and I'm conscious of the time. The first is, you mentioned international expansion, the Middle East one. How is it going? Do you have more plans of allocating more time and effort over there for scaling it further, or do you think that Pakistan would remain your core focus? So how should we look at that particular business? And the second question is that if I look at the TPL group, it's very progressive, and you have partnerships in various businesses with international groups. Recently you got investment from a German group in the insurance business. So, and even in the tracking business, you mentioned your partnership with HERE, which is the #1 mapping company. So how engaged are you on the tracker side with global investors? And I ask this because when I look at we know that over the last 6 months, more than $100 million of global investment have come in tech sector, although in the private sector, but even in the listed companies, your peers such as Systems and TRG, they have attracted a lot of investment from global funds. So should we also expect that as an angle for you in terms of, are you getting interest from global VCs?
Right. So your first question was related to the Middle East business. So I think, as I mentioned, the way to look at it is we took management control of it in July. So a lot of our focus this year, and obviously it's been some disruptions because of COVID in terms of travel, but has been on number one, on the product side, being synergized with the types of products that we're offering here and over there, put and migration of a lot of our software solutions onto here, Maps. Second is first on the product side. Second is on the team side. So obviously there was some structural changes that we made in terms of the company and what we're trying to do moving forward. Because again, that company was essentially also similar to Tracker, was focused on selling hardware, and our focus on shifting that we're trying to do here is the same shift we're trying to do there. Was on the team. So those things, the results of those things we would start to see coming forward in Q1 of this coming fiscal year in terms of timing. And a lot of our focus and effort obviously is also my focus has been more so, I think, in the last few months has been with Tracker Middle East in terms of execution and a lot of the planning on the team side and on the product side that we're doing, that will enable us to see some results coming from Q1 of this coming year. The second question was related to the VC. So I'll give, so answer your question in short, yes. So firstly, we signed a letter of intent with a Chinese player. It's called CCCC. They signed a letter of intent with us, but that is currently pending because of the due diligence is going on. That there's potential equity investment of up to 25% in the business of potentially of actually them coming to Pakistan because of travel restrictions. Those are things which have not been allowed, and we've sort of been on pause for a while. But those are conversations ongoing where we've seen interest coming in from them. Secondly, we've seen interest coming from a large Canadian group as well, which are potentially speaking with us on equity investment. So overall, I would say that there has been interest, but I would say a lot of the things that people are seeing, and there are some big funds, couple of big funds that are also working with us, where those that have invested in some of our sister group companies looking at us. But as I mentioned, we are sort of at an inflection point, right, of what we are trying to do. We are trying to do drastically different. Selling hardware and selling software are two completely different things. And the type of software is selling is a SaaS-based subscription model. It's very different to some of the other companies which in Pakistan they do, where they're doing actually software development and then they sell the software and just have SLAs, support SLAs. Those are very different models. So a lot of companies are in contact, funds are in contact with us, but seeing sort of an approach where they're looking to see some of our results and deliverance on some of the things. So, I believe right now we are pretty confident, and I think the trajectory that we've showed in terms of our performance in these 9 months or so, from where we were to where we've gotten to in 9 months, is from the bottom line part as well, I think. So I think right now it presents a great opportunity. And so we're seeing some conversations as well that are going on.
Thank you so much. I think this is very exciting. And as you said, you are in an inflection point, and I'm sure once you show more progress in the plan which you're clearly delivering on, then you will get, there's no doubt that you'll get more partners, given the fact, the footprint which you have, the market dominance which you have, and the strategic and commercial importance of what you're building. As we said earlier, the purpose of this talk was to introduce our teams, our investors, and the general public who are watching this on Facebook and YouTube about the great success story of TPL, and which I think is one of the companies which we as Pakistanis should be proud of. And as I said in the beginning, I have no doubt that technology sector in Pakistan has the potential of transforming not just the industry, but also the overall country as well. And these are structural trends, which are mega structural trends, which won't be affected by politics or short-term cyclicality, which Pakistan is generally used to. So what you told was a very exciting story, and I'm sure that the investors on this call, and certainly my colleagues in the sales and research team on this call, would appreciate. And now we will tell your story proudly to the investors we speak to. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Take care. Khuda Hafiz.